some of the more ancient traditions like Tantra and Taoism and stuff like that understood it. They said that our sexual energy is our life force energy. Sex creates life. Sex is procreative. It is for creation, for the creation of our own life, not just offspring, right? And so when we're in touch with that, it's a life force. It's a vital energy. It's a creative energy. So when we allow that to flow through our body, and it flows upwards. Now, what I'm interested in is not so much about business, but it's about like sharing it with your heart. And then it's potentizes your love. So whether it's between a couple or whether just how you are in the world in general, it's like I've got this wellspring of sexual energy that flows through my body that's creating my life. And it's constantly there. But too many people are sort of cut off from it. Yeah. Blockages because we've got these negative emotions.
2, 1, 0.
Hi, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, sex, with Jacqueline Hellyer. She's the founder of the LoveLife Clinic and a total sex geek. She is fascinated by sex, love, and intimacy in all its aspects. With 20 years and thousands of hours of experience, she has created an exceptional career helping people understand the importance of an integrated, healthy sexuality. Jacqueline is a highly qualified master, including a Master of Science in Sexology and a Master of Science in Psychology. She takes a psychological, somatic, and transformational approach and adds a spiritual color to the art of sex. It was a pleasure talking to her. We talked about a lot of things in depth. We talked about intimacy and connection. We talked about how to awaken your sexuality. We talked about sex education for kids and how to raise kids with all the influences that they see around them, how to reduce body shame and create more body love, kinky desire, and of course, self-love. It all goes back to self-love as far as I'm concerned, because when you are whole and complete, everything around you change. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hey, Jacqueline, welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So today we're going to talk about one of the, I think, one of the topics that people are like, there is so much around this topic. Like, we love it, we hate it, we have shame, we have fear, we get exhilarated. There is so much weight to this topic. It's okay to talk about it. It's not okay to talk about it. Be a good girl. Confusing. It's changing. It's evolving. It's sex. Dun, 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 dun. So tell me, my dear, how did you started your fascination with sex, love, intimacy? And what I love about what you do is also you get into the psychology of it. It's not just the physical, because we are connected, mind, body, and you bring it all
And
together.
soul. I
And
like to
soul,
think I
thank
bring
you
the
so much
soul into it
for
as
mentioning
well.
that. Yes.
Yeah. It's very holistic. It's a very holistic thing. So how did I get into it? Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I've always been fascinated by the topic, but I wasn't intending to specialize until it was kind of like the universe led me down that pathway. I actually wrote a book for parents on how to keep their sex life going when they start having children, at a time when I had 3 young children myself and that side of life was going well. And that just clients wanted to start talking about sex, and I was quite happy to go there. But I do like to be well qualified in things. So I found out there's a master's degree in sexology that I could do to qualify as what's officially called a psychosexual therapist or a clinical sexologist. And yeah, I know, just all took off from there. And I loved it because from that, I discovered that I was really doing quality transformative work with people. And that was 20 odd years ago now. So
Yes. So what's the difference between having sex to having sex that is intimate and connected?
well, you can just bring your genitals together and your mind can be somewhere else. Your heart can be locked away and you're just doing the genital thing. And, I mean, that can feel okay, but it's kind of just getting off. And
Mm,
there's a place for that. I'm not saying that in itself is bad, but if that's all you're doing, especially if you're doing that with someone who you actually love,
mm.
it's a bit empty and lonely and soulless.
Yes, yes, I agree. Um, I don't know. I'm older now, but when I look at what you see in MTV, even in the MTV awards or everything Hollywood, um, sexuality is so exploited. I feel like young children, some of them are children, a young teenager, they learn that they have to be validated as a human being. They have to put like 4 layers of makeup on and the shortest shorts and show everything and go with the flow, and be just cool like Nicki Minaj or even I just saw a clip from Katy Perry was scissoring her co-star on stage, like she was like it almost like a lesbian sex act on stage. I'm like, why do we need to see that? Why do young children that are watching this need to see that this is how you play when you are, be like me, be like Katy Perry, and now it's like a 13-year-old, 12-year-old watch this, and this is where they this. I mean, it's not that cool. I mean, what we are teaching our children today is not our us, but the media is not very great when it comes to sex.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. I mean, on the one hand, yes, you can say that it's good that the topic of sex is becoming more acceptable and we can sort of express it however we want. However, if people are being channeled in certain ways that this is what sexual expression is, and I believe that part of the problem with that is it takes out actually what is good, which is connection. In fact, humans evolved to be so sexual because it connects us, right? I think this is kind of a cool way of looking at why we evolved this way. As our brains got bigger, our skulls got bigger, and we had to give birth earlier and earlier, right? Because otherwise, that big skull wouldn't have fitted out the birth canal. So human infants are born incredibly helpless, right?
Yeah.
It takes about 7 years or so for a human infant to get to where, or a human child to get where most mammal babies are almost immediately or within a few
Wow.
weeks. Yeah. And then there's another 7 years before they can reproduce. Like, that's a long investment.
Right.
And whereas other mammal species, there's no fatherhood. You don't need the males for anything other than to impregnate. With humans, there was evolutionary pressure for the fathers to hang around and help out. If the men helped out, they were more likely to have successful offspring who would continue their gene line, which is the
Mm.
basis of, life at a biological level, is to continue the genes, right? But if they weren't doing that, the mother wouldn't have been able to manage on her own. And so as part of that, humans became very tactile and very collective, and we love to connect, and particularly we love to connect with people that we love. And so the theory goes that part of that is being sexual, and which is why as humans most of the sex that we have is not about reproduction. It's rare that we have sex for reproduction. Mostly it's about connecting. It also explains why we're still sexually active post reproductive age, because we want
Right.
the grandparents to be loved up, and probably why there's lots of same sex attracted people. Not everyone needs to be having the children because we're a collective. We get
Right.
together, and
Right.
that's
Right.
how we evolved. Yeah. But then it all got bad under oppression, and there was a few thousand years of, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad.
So how can you teach your children and hey, at what age you start talking about sex with your children, and how can you teach them, hey, what you're seeing on MTV, this is not the real deal. It's about, a, do not have shame around your body or sexuality, but also don't exploit yourself and think that this is what it should look like or there is a certain way for sex to look like. We have like, I feel like even though we are as children we're not exposed to this level of sexuality in the media, we still have this, not we and not everyone but a lot of people I have to perform like her, I have to look like her, this is how it's done. And sometimes the best sex is just like having a connection and a quickie and hug and fall asleep. you know, it doesn't have to be all this like the big show, the big facade, the Photoshop.
Yeah, exactly. Like as some of my young clients have said, like I feel like someone's got a camera on me because it's become such a performative visual thing for them. So what to do? Look, you start right from birth. And a lot of it is actually about teaching your children to have agency over their own bodies and to have agency over their choices in life, while still, of course, guiding them. So you don't force them to do things that they don't want to do. You don't force them to give, grandpa a kiss if they don't want to give grandpa a kiss, if they're like, ugh. Otherwise, you're kind of training them to not honor their own needs and wishes, right? If they're saying they don't want something, well, maybe give them a choice or, engage in the why, of course, depending on the age. And also, teaching them that, their body's a beautiful thing, using actual words for actual parts of the body. Don't kind of go, ooh. And really, very importantly, too, about being comfortable in your own sexuality and about demonstrating to your children love and connection. Of course, not genital stuff, right, in public. But if you get on with your partner, the other parent, or the step parent, whomever it is, and you're being positive, they see that, oh, that's love, that's safe. So then when they start to understand that sex is something that mummies and daddies do, or mummies and mummies, whatever the gender, they, yeah, don't want to exclude anyone, right? But when they start understanding, oh, well, that's what they do, they're understanding it within the context. Oh, but that's a loving situation. And then the parents can start to teach them, because they've already taught them that they have agency over their own body, that privacy is an important thing, that, and earlier, if they've caught their children, maybe touching their genitals or whatever, they're just like, hey, that's okay, it feels good, it's good, just do it privately,
Yeah,
not
that's
bad, that's
right.
bad, that's wrong.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
know.
when they start coming across the concepts around sex, they've got a positive framework in which to conceptualize it and hopefully to be able to talk to the parents as well.
As a mother, like one of the most dominant emotion that I carry is guilt. Because I'm such a thinker, and I talk to a lot of experts here on the show already, like almost 400 episodes, and then I've done a lot of self-development and da, 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 da. I'm like, I'm screwing up my son. Like, I'm good, 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 and then one day I'll be tired and not conscious, and I'll say the wrong thing or I'll do the wrong thing. I'm like, why did I say it? Now it's like, he's like, and in my mind, it's like, this is the first 7 years of life, and he's in a state of hypnosis and delta brainwaves, and everything that I'm saying is affecting him, and what am I going to do? And I just did it. How can I fix it? Oh my God, my little son and my little angel, I waited for him for so long, and now look at what I've done. It's hard.
Oh my God, yes, it's all your fault. Yeah, right. Life is not perfect. Life is imperfect. And, and that's part of his growth, is to deal with all the non-perfectness of life. We just fumble along as best we can.
Yes, yes. And when it's come to this sex and sexuality, I did find myself, oh, we're going, give grandma a kiss. I mean, he does that. I don't think I've ever forced him, but I found myself sometimes saying like, "Oh, give me a kiss, we're going." I never force him to do it, but maybe sometimes I do without knowing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing to start pondering. Like, we don't want our children to have a free for all. Of course, as parents, we're there to guide them.
Hmm.
But are there times when we're sort of forcing them to do something because we think that we should, and we're actually overriding their choice? So they're learning not to trust their own choices, or to
Yes.
feel that they have to capitulate to what someone in a more dominant position has to say.
Yes. Yeah. So I usually try to say when he asks me a question, I'm like, it's like, hey, do you think it's beautiful? I'm like, do you think it's beautiful? What do you think? Are you proud of yourself? So I'm trying to do that, but of course, like as the control freak that I am determining a lot of what he does. I mean, he's 5, so you have to some degree. So this us as children, we grow up and then we are exposed to. I think women are exposed to a lot of sexual pain and a lot of sexual hurt and a lot of um, trauma. I know I had. Um, I was raped at age 20. I was at a club and somebody, it was my birthday actually, and my friends left, but I was like, oh, it's my birthday, I want to stay, blah, I want to party. And somebody put some drug and that happened. And I did some healing of that. That doesn't raise any emotional charge, but it's enough to be with an intimate partner and him saying something about your body or, when you, that like, there's a lot of um pain sometimes around sexuality and a lot of fear and a lot of things that are thoughts that are not even yours that have been implanted by others, either the collective or intimate partners throughout the years. How do you release people from those traumas or those pains?
Yes, look, it's so common and probably more so with women, but certainly men have it as well, right? In different ways.
Mm-hmm.
The history of our society has not been very sex positive, so it's in there, right? And now
Mm-hmm.
we've got all these expectations thrown out at us about like, well, this is what it's supposed to be like. So it is very much a little bit like what I was saying we need to do with our children, we need to do with ourselves and
Mm.
start really honoring what our truth is and paying attention to what we're feeling in the moment rather than thinking that we've got to go into something and then there's all these expectations that you've got to do this, you've got to do this, and you've got to do this. It's to bring it back to just this moment. It's very mindfulness. It's about engaging in sex mindfully. You can even see it as a mindfulness practice.
How do you bring it to the moment when your mind runs into like, oh wow, I have this like 10,000 to-do lists and how do you bring it back to the body? How do you get present?
So a lot of it is about how you connect with your partner, right? Because if you're coming together and really truly like, it's you, and taking your time to connect, that's going to start getting you what I call love drunk. You start to go into an altered state of consciousness and you're much less likely to get distracted, right? A lot of people will have a drink or something before they have sex because it sort of gets them into that state where they're not busy, 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 busy in their minds.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to have a drink beforehand, then a lot of it is about how you approach it and pacing it. Too often people just go too fast. Too often they're trying to get to the end result because they've got a very linear view of what sex is. You gotta get to the intercourse. You've got to get to the ejaculation. You've got to have the orgasm. Rather than just going, well, where am I at right now? Like, let's have a nice conversation. Let's have a foot rub. Let's just lie in each other's arms and just enjoy the skin on skin contact without thinking that that must then lead to that. So
Mm-hmm.
that you give yourself a chance to just kind of really sink in. Yeah. And you also make sure that your environment is supportive. Right? What kind of environment makes you relax and let go?
Mm-hmm.
For example, for parents, I always say, do you have a lock on the door? Because if you don't have a lock on your bedroom door, you will always be slightly anxious that the children might burst in.
Yes,
That's not
yes.
conducive, right? Are you doing it in a way that at
That's
a
my first
time that,
requirement.
yeah, yeah. Even things like playing music. Yeah, I'm a big fan of music in the bedroom because
That's my second requirement.
it creates a nice atmosphere and it sort of distracts the mind as well. What time is it? Like if you're doing it last thing at night when all you want to do is fall asleep, then you're not going to be very present. If anything, it's going to be like, let's get this over with so I can go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's a lot to be thinking about, like, how are we connecting? Are we paying attention, each of us? What am I feeling like in this moment? And from that, co-creating moment by moment. Right? We often talk about consent as though it's a yes or no to an entire activity. Whereas for me, consent is a moment by moment co-creation.
Mm.
Yeah. Where am I feeling? I'm wanting this in this moment. What about you? Yeah, this is good. Let's do this. And now, like, actually, now I'm feeling like this. What about you? Right? So you don't just assume that we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, because that stops people from doing anything.
The pressure, the expectation.
Yeah, a certain type of hug, a certain type of kiss, a certain type of comment is a green light to do, 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 and you don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like that right now, then you're just going to stay away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not doing the kinds of things that might actually get you in the mood and get you connected enough to want to take it further.
So how do you get in the mood when you don't feel like getting in the mood, when you're tired, when you're just like, I kind of want to be with my partner, but man, I had a long day and she's a little tired. My body's a little tired.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to look at it within the context of your entire life. And too many people that I talk to, they don't have a sex-friendly lifestyle, right? They're just exhausted all the time.
My lifestyle is not sex friendly.
No. And if you're tired and exhausted, it is totally normal not to feel like sex. That's just normal, right?
Yeah, I feel like the female needs to be most females. It needs to be very relaxed and receptive and open before they can be penetrated, before they can receive. Because if you are in go mode, more in your masculine energy, and your body is just very tight and tired, like nothing's getting in there. It's too much.
No. And in fact, I never use that word penetration. I think it's a
Okay.
horrendous word to use for I mean, everyone does it, but it's a violent word. It means to break through resistance. Um, yeah, that's what it actually means.
Yeah, you know what? Now that it doesn't feel like but it feel like when at that moment where I put the pressure on myself, then this word comes to mind, I guess, subconsciously.
And if you think about the word
Hmm.
penetration, it causes you to constrict. Penetrate. Yeah.
Yes.
And it puts the
Ah,
onus on the
yes.
man, like as the penetrator. The owner of the penis is the penetrator. So you're just reinforcing this view of sex that it's something that a man does to a woman, and the woman has to like prepare to be penetrated rather than, as you said, like opening and relaxing, right? And it's actually better for the man too. I'm being very, heteronormative here, but it's also better for a man as well to be in that relaxed, open state, because then you get two people coming together and co-creating rather than one person, generally the man, having all the pressure on him to penetrate and get it right and make sure she has a good time, because there's a lot of pressure on them on keep the penis hard all the time. And then there's pressure on the woman to sort of like take it in and make sure it's okay. And rather than both people just going, hey, this is where I'm at, where are you at? Like, let's just have a nice conversation, have a foot rub, I don't know, have a nice cuddle and a kiss, no pressure.
I find that eye gazing and breathing and hand holding is a really good way to start sex. It doesn't have to be with like sexy comments or sexy attire. This is like all that is surface level. When you actually connect, actually, the more I feel like for me, the more I am connected to my partner, the more we have like a heart connection, then everything else is opening up. Then the body can relax. Then I can feel safe because I'm with someone that makes me feel safe, and I don't feel like I need to perform. And I can even say, you know what? I'm tired today. Do whatever you want, you know?
Yeah.
No
Oh, actually, you know what? Let's just
expectation.
have a nice cuddle. Mm,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And it's so much better for the men as well. Like that kind of approach solves a whole heap of male problems as well. Erectile dysfunction, premature
Yeah,
ejaculation,
they feel the
just,
pressure, yes.
there's
We
so
usually
much
talk
pressure.
about the women and but yeah, men have problems too. Like so in your many years of helping people, what did you find the main problems and the main solutions?
So the main problem is our view of what sex is,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
Like I'm always saying, we can't all be sexually dysfunctional. The problem's got to be the model of sex that we're ascribing to.
Yes.
And it is that very linear thing that once you start, you've got to go through to the finish, which in
Mhm.
heterosexual sex is normally the male ejaculating. And that's got to happen at the right time in the right way. And she's got to have an orgasm beforehand. And we've got to, and it's just like, oh my God.
Sound like an opera singer.
Yeah. Right. And all the KPI, it's interesting. Like when I talk to couples, I always say to them the first thing, it's like, well, why sex? Why do we have sex? And usually they go, oh, that's a good question. Never thought of that. I'm like, okay, so you got
Uh-huh.
this problem and you've never thought about the why. But what they always say is it's about pleasure and connection.
Mm.
And yes, as I said earlier, we evolved to have connection through pleasure. So our only two KPIs, our key performance indicators, are: is it pleasurable, is it connecting? Yet all our problems are quantitative, not qualitative. It's all about how long, how often, how quick, how hard, how big, how loud. It's all this quantitative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yet actually, when people get down to why they're doing it, there's nothing quantitative about it at all. It's all about this feeling, this experience of pleasure and connection, right?
Yes.
So we need to shift our concept of what is sex to just about pleasure and connection, right?
Mm.
And that goes way beyond what your genitals are doing. Like, that flows into the whole of your life. It's the moment you wake up in the morning and you look at your beloved and you go, oh, darling, hello, nice to see you. You know, like, that is a sharing of an energy that has that, I call it a potentized love energy. It's like you use your sexual energy to potentize your love. So it's not just, oh, I love you. It's, oh, I love
Mm-hmm.
you, right? There's a little frisson in that. And that is an energy that needs to,
What is Frajon?
frisson, oh, it's a French word. It's like, oh, that's nice. It's like, oh,
Okay.
yeah, like, it's subtle. It's subtle. But when a couple are sharing that throughout the day, with little touches and kisses and glances and comments and little heart emoji at the end of a text, all these nights, it's like, here you go.
Or eggplants. Just kidding. No.
Well, yeah, like, some people like eggplants, right? If you're an eggplant,
I never sent it. I never sent an eggplant emoji. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know it's something sexual.
oh, it's supposed to represent the penis because it's one of those little,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, but it's also about understanding, like, when, even if you like eggplant emojis, when do you want it? Like, probably first thing in the morning when you're trying to get ready and out to work, that's not a time for an eggplant emoji. Maybe
Right.
if you've been lying in the bath for an hour at the end of an evening drinking a glass of wine and you receive an eggplant emoji, then you might be like, well, okie dokie, let's get eggplanty, for example, right? So part of it is about sharing this loveliness, but also understanding, like, what is that loveliness at different times of the day in different circumstances. Certain situations feel connecting, but that same thing at a different time might not be. As I just said, an eggplant
Yes.
emoji when you're trying to get breakfast organized and the kids off to school, no, that's not connecting. That's the opposite. But maybe later on, if you're having a nice time and there's some kind of more overt sexual kind of comment, that will be better received because you're in that space, because you're feeling more relaxed, more connected.
Yeah, it's all about context and nuance.
Exactly. And we really need to understand that if you want to have a good quality love life, and I use that term advisedly because as soon as we say sex, everyone goes straight to penis and vagina type activities. If you want to have a good quality love life, you've got to really examine it and focus on it like anything else good in life. Yeah, and talk about
Yes.
it, but do it in a positive way. Like, it's a beautiful part of life. But often we don't talk about it unless there's a problem.
Right. Yes. What do you do about body shame or shame with like sexual preferences?
Yeah. So it's really important when we talk with our partner that when we're hearing what they're saying, we always listen open-mindedly, right? We don't have to like what they're suggesting. But I like to make comparisons with other parts of life. Like, if your partner was to say to you, wow, I'd really like to try goat curry. And you might be like, ooh, that doesn't sound nice. You still listen, right? Or if you're talking about where are we going on holidays and your partner says, oh, I really love to climb the Himalayas. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I want to go and lie by a pool, right? But you don't shame your partner for that. And it's the same with sexual things. We're much more likely if our partner says, well, I've never had sex outside, I'd like to try that. Your reaction might be like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. So, I'm not listening. Or, you horrible pervert, what if someone saw us? That's disgusting. What's important is that we just listen. Really? You'd
Mm.
like to try that? Oh, why does that appeal to you? I'm not sure it's something that I'd be into, but certainly curious to understand you, right? Because often when things go bad is because we all have sexual shame. It's impossible to grow up in this culture and not have even a tiny bit, right? So if we have desires that we're not sure about whether they're okay or not, there's going to be a bit of shame attached. If we don't express it, they stay on the inside and they can ferment and turn into something bad.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly if we try and express it to our beloved and they shame us for it, then it's going to be squished down really hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we'll either sort
Mm-hmm.
of like it'll cut us off from our partner, or it might direct us into some other kind of behaviors which aren't life enhancing, right?
Or just shut a part of ourselves that is unexpressed, and that's sad, especially if you're in a monogamous relationship for years and years on end. Like, life's short. Why not? I mean, within reason, why not try and experience and connect and learn and, you know, just fail miserably, but try
Yeah.
it.
And it all starts with just talking to each other and just listening, right?
Right.
And actually, if you have a good conversation, you may well then, once you understand why your partner's interested in something, and if you've sort of talked about what your fears are or what your boundaries might be, maybe you can give it a go. But even if you don't want to give it a go, you don't have to, right? It might just be like, no, can't go there. But at least your partners feel
Mhm.
heard and accepted. Like they haven't been
Right.
shamed. They're just like, oh, okay, that's cool that that's what you want, but sorry, I can't go there. Like they're not going to feel rejected.
It makes for a better relationship because you have true connection with your partner. You're not just surface talking or surface sexing. You know, you really connect. Like, hey, this is me, genuine me. This is how I want to connect with you. Yay or nay, but at least we share something. At least you know me better. At least I know you better.
Absolutely. And to use an example, I'll just stick with the outdoor sex one, right? Like one person might be thinking, oh, I'd like to do that. It'd be really exciting. And the other one's like, oh my God, someone might see us. That would be awful, right? So then you address oh my God, someone might see us. Like, well, what if no one could
Hmm.
see us? And then it's like, well, why would you want to do it if no one could see you? Like you can have an interesting conversation. You might end up, I don't know, going and staying overnight in a hotel and on the 30th floor and having sex in the window, right?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like, that might meet both one person's desire to be sort of a little bit more flagrant while the other one's like, but actually no one's really going to see us unless they've got a
Oh,
telescope.
that's really cute. Yeah, I love the idea of finding creative solutions to fulfill each other's needs. I mean, it's like in life, you know. For me, I'm an omnivore, and my partner is mostly vegan, and we live with that, and that's okay. We respect each other. I respect his way of life and his choices. He respects mine. Sometimes I have to cook twice. I'm not happy about it, but I do it because I love
Well, exactly. The thing is, we need to accept that we can't have everything we want in life. Yeah. And
Yes.
sometimes we're disappointed. You'd probably love to eat roast beef with him and you're just never
Oh,
going to
yes,
get the
yes.
opportunity to eat roast beef with him.
Hmm.
Okay, just a little bit disappointing, but there's heaps of other good things that you can eat together.
Right, right. Yes. You have to look at because our brains are wired to always in relationship, in sex, in life, in everything. We are wired for danger. Our primitive brains that did not evolve are wired to look for the saber-toothed tiger. We are attracted to bad news and sensational news on social media or anywhere. And even with our partners, we tend to forget why we are with them and just look at the glass half full and look for danger. So we need to rewire our brains to look at what's good. What do I love about him? Why am I with him? Wait a minute, let's breathe. Let's get out of my thinking mind and into just hand holding. Let's connect on a heart level. Let's see all the beautiful things about him or her. Let's really really get into a place of love where you exude love and you connect and you see beauty in your partner, and from that place there is infinite possibilities of satisfaction.
Absolutely, there is. Yeah. And that's why I sometimes joke I should be called a getting to sex therapist rather than a sex therapist because I spend so much more time on the getting there, creating the right kind of lifestyle and relationship and home and concepts and everything.
What do you physically do as a sex therapist? Like, what do you actually what is it like? Because I've never been to a sex therapist.
Oh, well, I mean, look, there's different types, but I just do talk
Okay, okay.
therapy. So,
Not hands on.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I also run couples retreats and women's retreats as well. So that's a lot more experiential. Yeah, no, we just talk.
Okay. Where what you guide the couples to do things or connect, and there's actually like physical acts in the room. How does this work?
At the retreat or in my clinic?
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes. Physical, non-sexual, probably not
Yeah,
non-penetration
there's always
acts.
not,
Like, how does it
yeah,
work?
you use the word. Yeah, there's always,
I used it again. Oh my goodness, I'm too programmed
I know it's hard to get
to
out of
use
it.
that word.
Yeah, but I do
Yeah,
my little
sorry
bit
about
to
that.
try and get that word out of our language, out of our sexual vocabulary. It's terrible.
Mm,
I like to use the word envelopment. Like, let's have envelopment sex. Let my vagina envelop your penis.
I don't know what envelopment means, but I'm gonna look at the dictionary for that.
It means to envelop, to cover, to like
Okay.
to cover. Yeah, there's even it's difficult to find the right word.
My English is pretty good as second language, but still, like, there's so many new words and
Yeah, no, don't worry about
I'm
it.
like,
It's kind of like the sense of like taking the onus off from what the man's doing to what the woman's doing, and that she's inviting. She's inviting and she's enveloping. And she's
I
holding
like
him.
invitation.
Yeah,
Okay.
safe, cuddling his penis with her vagina. It's yeah, look at your face.
It feels more grounded.
It is, and it's so much more connecting, and it's so much nicer for the penis and the penis owner as well, because there's no pressure. He can just go in and just go, oh, this just feels so nice. Yeah. And then you can just go, oh, this, and that's when it can kind of,
Come here, you penis owner. Let me envelop you.
yeah, come on in. Come on in. I'm inviting you in, like most penises don't like to go in without an invitation, like, oh, am I doing this right? Is this the right time? Like, yeah. But to know that he's invited in and that he's being held with love
Mhm,
from the inside, fantastic. I got
mhm.
distracted. What was I talking about a
Yes.
moment ago? I was going to say,
I don't remember. This was I got distracted too. I was like, wait a minute, what's my next question? I'm still in development and analyzing this word. Go back here. Hello there, Jacqueline. How are you doing? We are at Stella Life Podcast. I'm the host right now. You are my expert guest, and we're talking about sex. Sex can be very distracting. How can I be present even like with sex? Even I'm just thinking about sex, I get out of focus.
yeah. Now that I'm back in focus too, I remember what we were talking about. You were asking what people do in my clinic or in a retreat. Yeah.
Uh,
And I was like, yes, well, partly I teach them more mindfulness practices so that they can be, more present with each other. In the retreat, we
mhm.
actually do things like eye gazing and touching and things like that, but lots and lots of talking and learning how to talk and learning how to talk about this in a really positive way, learning how to, be able to express your boundaries in a positive way and get curious about each other so that you can co-create beautiful experiences.
Yes, yes. Um, do you know the work of Jaya? Do you know Jaya? Have you heard of her?
I think so. She's the blueprints woman, isn't she?
Yes, yes. So she was my episode number 3 on this podcast. And I know her personally from my time in LA. And I love the idea of blueprints because she talks about everybody has 5 blueprints: energetic, sexual, sensual, kinky, and shapeshifter, which is all of them. And sometimes a sexual person will approach an energetic person in a sexual way, meaning, oh, let's just go straight to business, when the energetic person will get more turned on by looking at them, gazing at them across from the other side of the room.
Yeah, I have a similar concept. I call them the 7 flavors of sex.
Oh, tell me
I've got,
more about
I've got
that.
more
What
than
are the
that.
flavors of sex? I want to know more about some flavors.
And I also talk about like, sometimes you might be in one flavor to get to another, or some certain times
Oh, yeah, yeah. Tell me about
you
that.
might want more than another. Well, look, it's kind of similar, I think. I'm not that familiar with what she does. Um, but yeah, and some of them are very, so some people are very, yeah, intense. They're very focused on the physical and they, really like the genitals and the rumpy pumpy that, yeah, they've got quite an intense energy. Then you get people who are more playful. So their energy is more like, oh, wow, what should we do? We could do this, we could do that. Like, oh, shall we get out the toys or shall we role play? Then you get ones that are sensual. It's probably similar to her sensual, that love the whole body, love
Yeah.
taking time, atmospheres.
Gotta have your candle, gotta have your music, gotta have your feathers, whatever you need to get in the mood. Because, like, if you're going, like, for you being for sensual, and I have some of that. For me, being in a dirty, unorganized location, like, it will just it will knock me out of state for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's what I call the romantic, and that's where it's just very simple and love based. Like, you're talking earlier how sometimes just a nice little quickie can be beautiful because it's just
Yeah.
focused on you and me. Then there's what I call wicked. I don't say kinky because a lot of people play act kinky. A lot of the playful types,
Mm.
oh, you're a naughty boy, I'm going to spank your bottom. Like there's more of that playful energy, whereas truly wicked like to play on the edge, right? So it's sort of like a different energy. Then also, yeah, the energetic, the more mystical, like the people that really like when nothing much is happening. So yes, like an eye gaze or some sense of
Tantra. Yeah.
anticipation. But I also like to say we need to bring more of that in because when we're first together, it's nearly all that because we have days of
Mm.
anticipation. We're preparing
Right.
ourselves. Yeah. At the start of a
Yeah.
relationship, it's nearly all that, right? Followed, and my seventh flavor is the intellectual, which is connecting through the mind, right? Having that
Hmm.
conversation. So when you think about it, when we're first together, there's masses of that energetic mystical, right? Followed by an intense session of the intellectual where we're talking and we're conversing, and there might be quite a lot of sensual in there as well. We might be dancing or some nice kids. And then we get home and we hard. Yes, it's physical because we can't wait to rip our clothes off. But that's not because we're spontaneously being physical. There's hours,
Mm.
days of other types of flavor that has actually got us in the place to be able to just rip our clothes off. But too many
Hmm.
people forget that, or they don't even realize that's what they've been doing. And they think that we should somehow just automatically be able to bang, just get it on. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right. So very
Yes.
often we might need, if we want to do something that's like very, intense and physical, we might need to get there through one of the
Hmm.
other flavors. So I don't really use the flavors, oh, well, I'm this and you're that. Most people will
Mm.
say yes to most of them. Like there might be some people don't have much of, but you know, it's the same with the love languages. I do the same thing with the love languages. It's not I'm this and you're that, because then people weaponize each other. Oh, but you're this and I'm that.
Right. Yes. 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 Every self-development bumper sticker can be used to weaponize each other.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Being with a partner where we're both like spiritually evolved and really, really like going to all those workshops and know a lot of things. We know a lot of bumper stickers and quotes. And sometimes we use it to weaponize each other, for sure. Even with the love language. He's like, well, gifts are your love language. And I'm like, no, I'm also this and this and this. You can't put me in the corner, baby. Nobody puts baby in the corner.
But really, what it comes down to is like understanding what's your sense of these different, we're talking about the sex flavors or the love languages, but, like, what do I like, for instance, the wicked thing? Like some people like a little bit. I quite like a little bit of that sort of wicked on the edge kind of play, but I'm not going to start there. It's not like, oh, hey,
Mm-hmm.
let's do some BDSM. Oh, yeah, right. It's got to, it's got to be something that, got to be feeling that really connected. Like maybe, like for me, my entree for a lot of things is sensual. If we go through the sensual, I can sometimes go
Mm-hmm.
to other places, but probably what we start with is the intellectual. But quite often I can do intellectual straight to physical.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes if we're locked in an identity, we're really missing out. If we think we're only this and not that, we're so missing out. It's like not embracing your shadow. When you walk through life and you don't embrace your shadow, your quote unquote bad qualities, you go and you'll never be completely fulfilled, or you will never ever know yourself. But if you channel those shadow parts in a positive way with a positive partner in a positive environment, then you transmute the shadow into the light and you work with both and you get strong in both, and it's really, really beautiful.
Yeah. And then you can kind of like play with some of those elements that might have in the past been your shadow, but now they're just like, it's like, let's just play with it. It's like, let's just be creative. And like, ultimately, like nothing's wrong. It's just, where's it coming from? And when it's coming
Hmm.
from sort of like a clean place, and I don't want to sound judgmental around that, when you've purified all the negative energies, cleared the shadow, then you can just play with stuff. And it's just
Hmm.
enjoyment and connection. Like sex should be playtime for grown-ups. it's
Right.
just a nice place where we can let go a bit or a lot.
I I think the killer of pleasure is judgment,
Oh, yeah.
for sure. That destroy everything in a relationship.
Yeah, we have to look at our own judgment on ourselves, which is what shame is.
Mm,
Shame is judging ourselves and finding it ourselves wrong. Guilt is also
yeah.
a judgment on ourselves that we're not being good enough, we're not doing something right.
So how do you help people get out of shame or low esteem or low not loving their bodies or being like, carrying a destructive belief from childhood or a life event?
Yeah. Look, what we do is we bring it out into the light. We actually look at it and then we hold it with love because generally it's come from a younger version of ourselves, right? Who didn't know any better, didn't know what to do with it, right? So I do a lot of, normalizing. That's normal. If you had that experience, or if those were the messages you got, of course that you feel this way. I think that's really normal. There's nothing wrong with you that you feel that way. It's absolutely normal. So, but let's look at like where did that come from, and how do you feel about that now, and what's a more positive frame around it, and really start looking at what is right for you now at this phase in your life. And then you can often like send back messages to your younger self and go, it's okay. That was tough. No wonder you felt like that. But now I'm all grown up. World's good. World's safe. You're allowed to do that. You're not a slut or a prude or whatever the thing that you were called, or yeah, or that awful thing that happened to you. Yeah, that was really awful. No wonder you feel scared and set up these protective mechanisms.
You sound so loving when you're saying that. I really felt it in my heart. Really beautiful. Thank you.
And there is something really
Um,
beautiful about being witnessed and held by someone who has absolutely no judgment or, pretty, got a beautiful understanding about these things. It
yeah.
creates a safe space. And often you can't do that on your own. You can't always do that with a partner. So it's really good to find someone, who's been trained and experienced in doing that sort of thing. Because then,
Right.
yeah, the healing it's coming. It's also, there's a relationship between you and your therapist or your coach or whomever you're working with.
Yes, absolutely. There is a concept of sexual transmutation. I read about it in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, where he talks about how the most powerful people in the world use sexual energy and channel it to be successful in business or any leadership role. What's your take on it?
Yes, I'm into that as well, in a way. Not necessarily for business, but just for life, right?
Mm,
Some of the more ancient traditions like Tantra and Taoism and stuff like that understood it. They said that our sexual energy is our life force energy. Sex creates life. Sex is procreative, it is for creation, for the creation of our own life, not just offspring, right? And so when we're in touch with that, it's a life force, it's a vital energy. It's a creative energy. So when we allow that to flow through our body and it flows upwards, right?
mm,
Now, what I'm interested in is not so much about business, but it's about like sharing it with your heart. And then it's potentizes your love. So whether it's between a couple or whether just how you are in the world in general, it's like I've got this
mm,
this wellspring of sexual energy that flows through my body that's creating my life. And it's constantly there. But too many people are sort of cut off from it. Yeah.
mhm.
Blockages because we've got these negative emotions, these negative energies that we've channeled there.
Also, especially in stressful time, like I feel like that takes me out of my sexuality and out of my body because I go into my mind and I connect into the collective fear. Or, don't want to define myself as empathetic, but I am very empathic. It's not everything that I am, and I can be also not empathic, absolutely. But usually, if I don't focus on it, I can feel everything and everybody and the collective all at once. So, what do you do to move that and be and so you can channel your sexual energy? And I'm sorry I cut you off. I do want to listen and to what the rest of what you just said.
Yeah, no, we're having a great conversation. I love it. Best conversations I've been.
Mhm.
um, so it's about being able to focus internally to become embodied. right? And we do that a lot through breath and through visualization and being able to move our focus of awareness to different parts of our body. We're pretty well conditioned to focus in our head, right? And when we're doing that, particularly if we're stressed and we start worrying, like, oh my God, we're conditioned to go into our heads. Our heads are supposed to solve it all. But what we now know scientifically is that we're not a brain ruling over a body. Like, the whole of our nervous system is interconnected, and that affects our endocrine system and all, it's hugely interconnected. And in fact, our brain works better when it's paying attention to what's going on in our body. And we get like something like 80% of the data is bottom up, right? So our brain needs that information. So when we're feeling particularly in our heads or a bit disconnected from ourselves, that is the time to practice those embodiment practices, mindful embodiment, so that we can kind of go, oh, sinking into here.
Come back to your body.
Yeah, and get
Feel
into your body, like even putting your hand on your heart or on your gut. Yeah, just like,
or your feet on the ground.
yeah, and breathing consciously so that you're bringing your breath deeper into your body and you're consciously relaxing your nervous system. Right? We can do all of this.
Yeah, it's very easy to get out of our bodies into our thinking minds and our fears and our whatever is out there that does, even thoughts that are not don't belong to us, and just bring it in. So it's a conscious, it's a way of life to go back to yourself, go back to yourself, go back, because the answers are never out there, they're always
Yeah,
inside.
yeah, exactly.
I find myself sometimes looking at Google for hours, and I'm like, just sit with yourself and do some writing. The answers will just show up.
Yep. And
Yeah.
we have to pay attention to this, like notice what we're feeling. Notice when we're losing attention, right? And
Yes.
consciously bring ourselves back. Or give ourselves permission. You want to scroll Facebook for an hour, and okay, if that's what you genuinely want to do, that's all right. Like, don't shame yourself either if you want to just relax and chill out for a bit. But what's really important
Yes.
is that we're consciously aware of, well, how are we actually being in this moment and what are we actually wanting in this moment? What do
Right.
I need to do to shift myself into a state that enables what I want? But actually, that's what I love about the couple stuff. Because when you have a positive relationship with your partner and a positive connection, you can help each other manage your internal state, right? If you know that your partner does this when they get stressed, you can reach out, hey, sweetheart, relax. It's okay. Little kiss. Ooh. And yeah, it's called co-regulation. We're helping each other regulate.
I did it yesterday with my husband. He came back home after a very long and stressful international flight, and he couldn't find his shaver, and you know it really stressed him out. And I'm like, hey, stop, come here. I made you soup. Eat. He ate the soup. He relaxed a little bit. A minute later, it was just there on the
Yeah,
table.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, beautiful example.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just lovely talking to you, and I can talk to you for so much longer, and I want to be respectful of your time. Before we say goodbye for now, I have two questions for you. One is, what are your three top tips to living a stellar life? And the second one is, where can people find you?
Okay. Well, just I guess take some of the three top tips from our discussion today. So one of them is actually really learning to become embodied, to learn how to manage yourself and your internal state, and then to learn how to connect with your partner and to really focus on that part of your intimate life together rather than, what we're going to do in the bedroom. Like, how do we connect? Like, how do we get there? But also to start practicing being very comfortable about talking about what in the bedroom or outside the bedroom might be, and really just treating it as this beautiful part of life that we love to talk about and to understand each other and to continuously be able to create a really positive love life together. There you go. Three top
Beautiful.
tips. In terms of how people can find me, well, everyone's on Instagram these days, aren't they? So it's Jacqueline.Hellyer. So if you want to focus, I'm really focusing on Instagram these days, so I'd love you to join me there. Otherwise, my website is JacquelineHellyer.com. And on there's heaps of stuff from private sessions, retreats, in Australia and Bali, online courses, a blog that's
Bye.
got 360 plus articles, and they've all been podcasted as well. So lots of videos and stuff. So, and I'm actually now in a phase of creating more online content because my phase for me is about getting the message out more. I think 20 years and 10,000 hours of client contact and thousands of hours of retreats and workshops. Like there's a lot of information there, and I just really want to get it out to the world because I think the world needs it.
You betcha, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to get the message out to your beautiful listeners. So it's really I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, and thank you for a wonderful conversation. Open, vulnerable, and genuine. Loved it. Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember to learn how to become embodied, find how to connect with your partner, and talk about your desires, talk about your feelings, and create a beautiful connection and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.